Chairman. I want to welcome the Minister to the House and welcome all our guests in the gallery. In line with what Senator Landy originally said there about Labour senators being involved in business, I was born and bred in a small retail shop in rural Ireland, and my parents are still running the business, so I know a little bit about small business. Not everything, I don't proclaim to know everything, but I have opinions on certain parts, certain issues in relation to business. In relation to our motion, I'll be speaking on three parts of that motion. The first part of it is opening up the rules on tender and procurement, again, to enable a wide range of firms and businesses to seek public contracts. My opinion on this is this very important issue, and under EU law, I believe that we're making it very easy for foreign companies to come into this country and get big contracts, and that we don't seem to be able to compete with them, and particularly major road projects. And I would ask myself, what's the material gain for us by doing that? There is no material gain. So I just in line with identifying opportunities for sustainable public procurement, a document that was produced by Client Earth, they state that most economically advantageous tender to ensure that the importance of including sustainability criteria is clear. What they're suggesting is that in any tender process, it shouldn't be just about the cheapest price, because for these road projects, yeah, the Spaniards and the Turks will come in and they'll have the cheapest price and they'll have their own money. But in a tendering process like this, you should always also have built into it, do you have a company based locally in Ireland? Are you a ratepayer? How many people have you employed locally? And when and if the local person gets the contract, he will be employing people, he will be taking people off the dole, they will be paying taxes in this country, and there will be an economic advantage. And that should be built into any future tendering processes for any of our major works that will take place in the future. In relation to the second part of the motion, the provision of greater levels of social protection, including protection in the event of illness, for those who are self-employed, and in particular for those whose businesses fail, leading to a collapse of income. I'm a long-time campaigner for the rights of people self-employed who have no rights in the event of them becoming unemployed or sick. In fact, when I ran for the Senate elections, it was #1 item on my campaign card. When I ran in the previous general election, it was the same thing. Because I've worked in that particular field for 28 years, I can understand the problems that they have. And I know now that following a lot of consultation between our Labour senators and Joan Burton, that maybe very soon down the road that we can find a resolution to this by way of a voluntary contribution, that will entitle self-employed to get unemployment benefit or disability benefit in the event of illness, and rather than what's there is a means-tested payment that they probably won't qualify for. The third thing that I'll be dealing with here is commercial rates. And I just want to quote from the Advisory Group on Small Businesses in relation to commercial rates. Although rates are generally a relatively small proportion of business costs for many businesses, they can be particularly burdensome for some enterprises, and that indeed is the truth. I, Minister, have called on numerous occasions in this House for a national review of commercial rates. And I know that some time ago that there was a pilot scheme done in Dublin in 3 county council areas, and following the outcome of that, it reflected a 35% reduction in rates for those local authority areas. I know that what the valuations officer is saying is that they only have 12 or 14 staff and they can't do this nationally. They don't have, but there is talk of outsourcing the valuations. So this should be considered, and it should be dealt with fairly soon. I mean, there are ridiculous situations that arise right across the country. I'm from County Roscommon. Monksland is a huge area in County Roscommon on the River Shannon, alongside Athlone. The rate per square foot in a thriving town of Athlone is €52.27. And the rate in Monksland across the River Shannon is 74.34, 22 euros in the difference. So I'd ask myself the question, why would anybody consider setting up a business in Monksland with a rate like that? But this isn't something that the county councils can deal with, Minister. County councils can reduce their rates by 1% or 2% if they can find savings for the benefit of small businesses, but they certainly can't find savings of 22% or 25 or 35%. These things have to be found at government level by a national review, and in that advisory group on small business, they also said that there was potential savings of 511 million that could be found by local government efficiencies. And I'd ask you, Minister, whereabout are those efficiencies to come from, and will they be passed on to the ratepayers? Because I think it's vitally important that it does. And myself and yourself in the past, Minister, have spoken about rates, and we did agree on one thing, that possibly we should consider a two-tier rate system. And maybe one for the blue chip companies and one for the smaller businesses. Because at the end of the day, I cannot see the logic, and I've said this so many times, I cannot see the logic of a small business who might employ 1 or 2 people and have a rates bill of 4,000 or 5,000 that they simply cannot pay, and they feel that they must close down the business, right? And they put the 2 people on the dole, and it cost the state 42,000. Sure, there's no logic at all in that. I mean, there has to be a better way. I mean, if the county council at that stage, or the local authority, were to forego the rates, we were still going to be saving 38,000 to the taxpayer. And I'm just moving on, Chairman, there, just to... I've always said, and I said this a year and a half ago in Roscommon when Mark Fielding was president, and that was that we should also look at our social welfare budget, look at it to create jobs rather than keep people at home. And if it costs, as I said before, 21,000 a year to keep somebody on the dole, why? And we wanted to create 100,000 jobs by offering 10,000 of that to an employer to employ somebody. We're actually saving 1.1 billion per year by doing that, and we're also creating 100,000 jobs and people that are going to be paying tax and charges, etc., etc. And I'm just moving on. Just finally, I suppose, or just 2 final points. In relation to tourism and the hotel sector and all of that, lots of our hotels around the country are struggling, including, well, we had one in my own hometown, in Ballahadreen, employing 40 people. But as I said to you before, Minister, they had a rates bill of 40,000 a year and they had a water rates bill of 30,000 a year. They weren't able to pay that. They closed down, put 40 people on the dole, costed the taxpayer 840,000. Why have we not got an agency there that can say, well, hold on, how do we deal with this to save money? Like, if we just even, if the rates bill there was could have been foregone, I mean, we were still saving 750,000 to the taxpayer. And just finally, and I'm sorry for taking up so much time, but finally, in relation to NAMA, I think NAMA at the moment are concentrating far too much on the UK market. And I've said this in the House before, because I know from talking to auctioneers and estate agents, they have actually been in contact with NAMA to buy properties at a modest price and give them to people that are willing to set up in business. And NAMA are dragging their heels on this. Months and months later, they haven't signed on the dotted line. And there are people waiting there to set up business. And we're not doing anything about it as a government, and I think it's important. And I just finished in relation to Senator Byrne regarding the self-employed, of course, but I have to say, Senator Byrne, Fianna Fáil put these people on the dole, put the self-employed on the dole. And when you had an opportunity for the last number of years, you never looked after them once. Now you're blaming us for the mess that you have created.